to Incredibly Ordinary.
It's pretty fun.
This is.
And this coffee, we're pretty excited for it because this coffee is from a group in Woodland Park, Colorado, called, I think, Model Citizen Coffee. Is that right, Josh? Is that what it's called on the back there?
Yep.
Model
Citizen.
RFG had a conference, or we're going to have a conference, and this was the sponsored coffee for it. And so it's the Crush It blend, and it is super good. But the guy who started the company, or the roastery, was in the military for a long time, so a retired military guy, and started that there in Woodland Park, Colorado. But it's
good.
Really good, yeah.
That's got a good flavor.
Really strong.
Bobby, do you
which I
drink
like.
a lot of coffee?
I'm not a coffee drinker.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
No.
Well,
Well, your
just-
cup's empty.
Yeah,
so
we'll just have more old-fashioned for you. And this is our first time having an old-fashioned on here, and really good old-fashioned, Josh.
I think it tastes pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a little biased. So,
You want to talk about how to make this
so
old-fashioned here?
there
Do you need more?
is. So, and I would, yeah. The old fashioned, when we had Stan on here from Smoky Valley, we talked about rye a little bit, and he was talking about the spiciness of it and being really good for old fashioned. So I didn't care for this by itself, but I like it in the these little old fashioned stirrings. They've got all sorts of different little flavors of these that you can use, like margarita and
So are
stuff
the
like
are
that.
the
So
bitters already all in there then?
it is. It's
okay.
like sugar, orange juice, cherry juice, and I don't know if they put bitters in these or not. It doesn't say it, but they sure do taste very close.
like
yeah,
it a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
getting the nod. Yes, the bitters are in here, which because I think that's part of what makes that have that taste. But
Really good.
and then the ice cube. I think the aesthetics of the ice cube are.
You should have brought some
Those ice cubes
oranges
are cool.
and the cherry, and we could actually eat that. And then we'll give a little shout out to Shannon and War Room Huddle from RFG, the original podcast that kind of got us started in our podcast. We're using your mugs, so there we go.
Yeah,
They were nice.
I picked these up in Alabama last week, so.
We need to do
I heard you went to
your road
Alabama.
trip.
How was that trip?
It was interesting. I went by, I'd worked at the Starbucks there, and I went by, it was 18 years ago since I had actually been there. They were about to remove that Starbucks because they were building a brand new building next door, but that was kind of nostalgic. I'm thinking, am I old enough to think that I was here 18 years ago and did this? But yeah,
That's cool.
but good trip with my oldest daughter. We got some bonding time and hang out, and
Nice.
she's awesome. So yeah, it's a good time.
Cool.
Well, Mr. Bobby Potts, thank you for coming on here with us.
Hey, thanks
We're
for having me.
excited.
This is kind of cool.
And so tell us just, who are you? Give us a background who you are and just kind of your 'cause I know we'll get into all the racing stuff later on, but
Okay.
yeah, just tell us about yourself a little bit.
Well, I grew up in Kansas. I was born in Manhattan. Went to all through grade school. Moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Lived there for 3 years and didn't like it. Came back to Kansas and been here ever since. I started. Well, my dad always gave me crap about not having very many jobs because I've actually only had 2 main jobs my whole life. I went to work for school specialty right out in senior in high school, and
working the dock out there.
no, I actually went to the print shop.
All right.
Started in the print shop, and I don't know, Everett Salisbury was friends of ours through the racing deal,
Yep.
and got me the job there, and excuse me, and taught me how to run a press and started printing. And I was there for 22 years, and then they sold out to a company in Fremont, Nebraska, and moved all the equipment and started. I left there and started the next day at Aero Printing, and I was there for 23 years. So,
You were there. I remember when you were out at
Been-
school specialty. So
yep. So I've
yeah.
been printing for 45 years, and
Wow.
Wow.
got the opportunity to retire thanks to these guys.
And
First of the year.
Is this retirement
And-
thing all right?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I would recommend everybody to start early with a retirement plan.
Yeah.
Been preaching to my kids,
Well, they've seen a good example.
and it's worked out really good.
Awesome.
So both the wife and I, Peg, my wife, she worked for Tony's for 39 years,
Yeah.
and she's retired also. And
She was ready, wasn't she?
yeah, that was enough. So
Wow.
yeah,
And so racing is a big part of your life.
been doing that. Yeah, my dad years ago built cars, built
Okay.
the chassis, and built the race cars.
Was that a hobby for him? Or was that his job? Actually?
No, it was a hobby.
Okay.
He did it in the evenings after work. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that here in town?
Yeah, built them in a single car garage, and
Wow.
he built a lot of them for the guys. And I always, admired watching him do the welding and help put the cars together. And sometimes school got in the way, so somehow I don't know where we found one, but my dad found a school desk and put it out in the garage. So I'd do my homework out in the garage while he was building the cars, and I could sit and watch. Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Started from a young age, and here we go. This is what we're doing.
Yeah. And then I took off, and of course, he raced for 25 years. And then I went off and I helped all kinds of, different people. Helped Mike Cooper from Beloit, and I've helped Smiths from Wichita.
Yeah.
And then we met up with the Peels and Brian Nail, and I've been helping him ever since until last year. He finally decided to hang it up.
So your
Had
dad,
fun.
did he drive?
Yep, my dad raced. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Out
like
here at the old
25.
dirt track?
Yeah, he actually started in '66 is when they started, and him and his cousin had an old car, and they were driving it on the street, and they went to the races one night and liked it and decided it looked like fun, so they went and busted all the windows out of it and cut out the wheel wells, for the tires and all that, and then took it to the racetrack, and neither one of them really wanted to drive it, so they had a buddy drive it, and he crashed it like 3 weeks in a row. And my dad decided to shoot, I can do that good. And so he started driving it, and
That's awesome.
yeah,
that's
that's
cool.
what he
So when did the
Started-
Speedway start here in Salina? When was that opened up?
Oh gosh, the first track that Dad started racing on was Yahoo Speedway, and it was somewhere west of town, out by the Rolling Hills Zoo, I believe, out
Oh.
State Street. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but the Salina Speedway, I think, opened up in the '60s. Was built.
Okay.
And at the time they built it, it had a guardrail all the way around it, and the racers hated the guardrail because it was tearing stuff up, when you hit
Hitting
it
it?
and stuff. And so they went out one week and tore the thing down and took the guardrail away. And so yeah, it's a lot better. The guy, it's been through a lot of different managers, promoters, and the one that is Tommy Hendrickson has taken it over the last, I think this is his 11th or 12th year.
Oh, nice.
He brought it back when it was closed for 7 years. He went in, and there was trees growing up through the grandstands, and the place where the wall was falling over, and it was a mess. And they spent a lot of time out there.
That's an investment to making something like that.
Oh yeah.
They, I sitting here, you're talking about some of the racing. I was always thinking, we used to go out there in the '60s and watch some races. And it wasn't a big thing for our family, but I enjoyed it, and
It's a good time. You meet a lot of cool people. Nowadays racing has changed so much. 5 or 6, 7 years ago, you could go out and not have to spend a ton of money on the cars to keep them going. But nowadays, the technology has taken over so much. I have a set of electronic scales that you set the car on, and each wheel has an adjustment, to where you can adjust the weight, and once you get all that figured out, you can get close, and then it's getting the right shocks and the springs on. Well, now you pretty much don't use the scales anymore. They have electronic devices that you hook on you take a shock off and you put this, I knew I was going to forget the name of it, but anyway, you pull the car down to where it's actually thinks it's on the racetrack, and then you have numbers that you go off of, and that's how you set the car up.
So do the cars all have to be a certain weight, or?
They do.
Okay.
They have a weight limit. In our particular class, the modifieds, they have to weigh 2450 after the race. Yep.
So you go back to when your dad started driving, it was just break the window out and go out and go, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
The only driver I really have known much in the past was Jack Petty.
Yep.
And but that's
the big story. I don't know. You're aware of the fire that Jack got in '74, and they went through the deal there where the owner still had the car and everything. Jack was in the hospital. They actually asked my dad to drive Jack's car, and back then the points went with the car and not the driver.
Really?
So my dad parked his car and got in Jack's car and finished out the year at Salina Speedway and Great Bend and won the points at both tracks. Wow. And the owners had a trophy special made, like it's in the shape of Kansas State, and then it's got 2 stars for Great Bend and Salina, and said thanks for finishing out the points. And Dad got my dad just passed away here November 3rd.
Yeah.
And I found out that he had gotten rid of all of his trophies. He threw them all away because he didn't have room for them. And I was like, God, there was that one trophy that I wanted to keep.
And it's gone.
Keep searching through all of his stuff, getting rid of all of his stuff. I opened up a box, and that was the one he kept.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yep. So
Did you race also then?
I never did.
Yeah.
I drove go-karts for
Okay.
one summer. That was a lot of fun until it nickeled and dined me to death. But, no, that was a lot of fun. Dad had a go-kart at the same time, and my little brother, he kind of raced Dad's kart there. And so we all three, we had to build a little trailer where we had they stacked them on top of each other and hauled them to the track. But, I raced go-karts. And in the big cars, I had helped all these people all these years, and I could see how much everything cost, and there was no way I could afford it.
Not going to do that.
That's probably why I was able to retire at 62.
A controlled hobby there.
Yeah.
So if a person's coming into the sport today, what do you think the startup cost or just the annual cost to run a race car through this season? You have a guess?
There is, there's like 5 classes that are out there, and I know somebody's going to hate me for this, but they have a 4-cylinder front-wheel drive class called Sport Compacts. I mean, if you take a young kid, and you stick him in one of them cars, you're going to teach him how to, pretty kind of race in traffic. But as far as working on a car and setting up the car, setting up the chassis to handle better and yada, yada, and all that stuff, that don't teach you nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, those cars are pretty much stock, front-wheel drive cars, and you go out and they don't handle anything like a rear-wheel drive car. So they have the hobby stock class, which is really competitive, but it is actually the cheaper class of the 5
Really?
to get into. So, I mean, if you were going to take a 15, 16-year-old kid and stick him in a big car, the hobby stock class would be the
Start him there and
place to
get the
start.
experience.
Yep.
So then, like with baseball, you have your minor league, you have your single, double, triple A, and then you have the majors. When it comes to, you have NASCAR and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
If someone were to start, like, hey, my goal is to be in the NASCAR circuit, do they start kind of what the Salina Speedway does, or how does that progression work if someone were to go that entire progression?
The racing part of it can get you somewhere, but you probably need to get a hold of Lance because it takes a lot of money.
Really? Yeah.
That's what I figured.
And probably knowing the right people
I'm
to
going to
get there
retire
too.
yeah, 20 years from now. But
No, that's gotten to be there is so many racers out there right now that are really, really good at racing, but can't get the sponsorship and the backing to go farther. And then there again, there's guys that are in there that probably shouldn't be, because they're taking a seat away from a kid that, that's better. But yeah, no, it's a money deal now.
oh, it's got to be.
It's so.
That's all sports anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so with the Salina Speedway, is there an actual circuit of like, hey, there's one race at the Speedway, then one's up in Minneapolis, and how does that circuit look for that?
There's a lot of different. There's quite a few different little associations. Our particular one out at Salina Speedway, they're with IMCA. Then they have a traveling series, USMTS. They're pretty much the top 10 to 15 guys probably do that for a living.
Really? Okay.
They probably travel and do that for a living. And then the rest of the field, usually at them shows, are local guys that race there at the track that they're at, locally. Then there is, like the race we just went to in St. Louis here this last weekend, there's a UMP association, which is a lot of Illinois and Ohio-based tracks out that way. So it's kind of, where you go, all the
almost.
different divisions. Yeah, the associations kind of stay within.
So there's no nationwide like.
Well, IMCA is a national sanctioned, deal. They have all their different little tracks. We have there's getting to be less of them, but Salina, Concordia, we got Hayes, Waukene race some, Colby, Goodland. I know I'm going to be forgetting some of them. Dodge City. So we do have quite a few IMCA tracks that you can go to. All the rules are the same that you go to them. And then, of course, now Wichita, they're I forgot this one, USRA sanctioned. So it's they got a little bit more expensive motors. The cars got some more expensive parts on them than IMCA cars do, but
That's a bunch of different associations
there
for
is.
that,
and you can go race at any of them. Of course, if you used to take an IMCA car like from Salina and go try to race in Wichita, there is a class lower, a division lower than the big cars that you can race in and be competitive.
So you've got to run across some pretty interesting stories, competition. Not everyone's going to be a gentleman out there racing, right?
Yeah. No. Just like, perfect example. We just come from St. Louis, like I was talking, and there is a guy there that has won that particular race 2 years in a row, but he's gotten to where his fan base has totally turned on him. I mean, he gets nothing but boos now because he's done it by taking people out, to gain positions.
Yep.
He's not a very clean driver. And, the track is really small, and you're going to beat and bang a little bit. But some of the stuff that he has done, like he took a guy out in a qualifying round here this weekend, and the guy that he took out was able to keep going for a half a lap and ran him down and ended up running into the back of the guy that took him out and flattened his tire, so he ruined his day also. But the guy came back and ended up making the feature, and I think he ran fourth, so he still made it in, but he didn't win.
So, I mean, that's got to happen all the time,
Oh, yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and
That's
it's kind of sad because of every time I talk about something, it seems like it always leans back to the money situation. But yeah, they, guys that race like that kind of take the fun out out of it when you're out there trying to compete, And
Well, that St. Louis, you said that's about a $30,000 grand prize, or
yeah, I paid $30,000 for the winner. Yeah, and
pays for your fuel out and back then. So.
Yeah, and that's what's gotten to where that late model series that this was in has gotten so huge. I mean, there was Jonathan Davenport. He, I think his winnings for the summer was almost $2 million.
Whoa.
Yeah, he won one race that paid $1 million to win, and yeah,
You want to win that one.
so you can. I mean, them guys that are doing it for a living, you can do it if you're good.
What's the speedway then? Like here in Salina, what's an average prize for winning that?
In the modified division, it pays $450.
Okay.
I think it's like $125 to start. So if you go out and you start the A feature and you run the whole 20 laps and you're able to drive your car in the trailer, if you end up last, you get $125. You can afford to come back next week.
Right. Yeah.
But you get them guys that forget about that, and and I mean, it just takes one flat tire, and then you're in a hole because tires are like $150 a piece.
So are most of the guys here in Salina then doing it? It's more hobby based.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do any of these guys sell advertising on their cars or anything?
Oh, yeah.
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 My dad did one for a local racer back in the day.
I
remember
did
that.
years ago, and
Yeah.
that was for your team, wasn't
Yep.
it?
Yeah. You sponsored my dad.
Okay.
Yep, the
I
one
didn't. I
year.
don't remember who I sponsored. But
Yep. Yeah. You sponsored my dad's car.
That's cool.
The last year that he raced in modifieds. Yeah. I mean, now the guys, all the big traveling guys, they have their own. They have a whole separate truck and trailer that they haul their T-shirts and all their stuff in. Yeah.
Merchandise.
They have all the booths set up, and I mean, the people were just lined up all night long buying T-shirts and stuff. Yeah.
So when did you really get involved then in Salina? Have you always been involved in Salina racing, or and
Yep.
at what extent? Because you never really raced officially, but did you ever work on the cars, or were you more? How did that start out?
That's what I started doing was, like I was telling you, I bought the electronic scales, and I was probably the first one or two to have scales in town, and so I'd get calls from everybody, and I'd go to everybody's shop and
nice.
and scale their cars for them and do that. And now I'm into doing the sheet metal work. I build the bodies and
Okay.
stuff for them.
And then you also do a radio show too.
And we
so
have
how did that start?
We have Racetalk. Oh gosh! So this thing, Racetalk Live, you can tune in Thursday night. We'll be live on Facebook if you want to tune in.
And how do they find
Is
that?
it only on Facebook?
It's on Facebook.
Okay.
It's Racetalk Live.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll be in Chapman at the Kansas Auto Racing Museum. We're doing a show from there. But this whole deal is kind of crazy because the friend of mine, Bill Gritt, and Jerry Jones actually started it. We've been doing it for a little over 20 years now, I think.
Wow.
And yeah, and don't seem like that long. But anyway, Jerry worked for a radio station, did sports broadcasting and stuff like that. He got transferred out to like Garden City or somewhere. And he didn't
So it wasn't a promotion then.
with the
I'm talking Garden City. So.
Garden City. Yeah, I don't know. But so anyway, he was going to have to move away. And so we had a little meeting, and Bill and Jerry were talking about their little situation, and I don't know how I got involved. But anyway, I was there, and I found out why, because Bill asked Jerry, well, who's going to take over for you on the Racetalk show? And he pointed at me. He goes, Bobby is. I go, well, I've never done anything like that before.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad he did because it's kind of fun. Yeah.
You guys, do you still use the bar chucks up there?
No, we've moved from there. We actually we've been to a lot of different. We started out at the Blind Pig, and then we were at O'Malley's, the old Holiday Inn place.
Ambassador Hotel, whatever.
We've kind of moved around a little bit. We've been there, and then we were we've been to Chuck's, and we were at Maddie's Grill and Chill, and she was awesome to work with. You guys know, you ever go to Maddie's Bar and Grill? Yeah, she had to close during COVID, and she hadn't been able to open back up, but that was an awesome place.
I've heard the food there was great.
She did awesome. Yeah, she was a lot of fun. And so then we left there, and not knowing where to go, we approached the guys over at District Eat and Play with the go-kart track and all of the amusement stuff. Thought that'd be a cool place, and they took us in, and that's working out really good there.
Sweet.
Yeah. We traveled around a little bit. We've done live shows from the museum in Belleville. We've done a show from there. Of course, we're going to Chapman. We've done some kind of a sad one, but we did live shows from the midget races in Beloit, and they have a little tour that they started in Oklahoma, and then they come to Kansas and ended up in Belleville for the Belleville Midget Nationals, which was always a big event.
Yeah.
And we actually interviewed Brian Clausen the night before Belleville, and he was killed in Belleville the following night. So we were like the last ones to ever get to interview him. And
What year do you remember how that was?
I knew you were going to say that. It's probably been 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, is that, you mentioned that it's on Facebook?
Yep.
Okay.
Live on
Was it
Facebook.
ever on radio?
We did. We were on the radio for a while, and just things didn't work out.
I swear I have this memory.
It was on one of the local stations here.
Yeah, we started out on KSAL years ago, and we kept getting bumped around with the Royals game. They thought the Royals were more important than us.
Because they were great. I mean, they're 2 World Series in 30 years. That's pretty important.
So we kept having to change nights, according to the Royals schedule. And so then they put us on 95.5, and we were on there for
On the FM side.
Yep, on the FM side.
So if you're on Thursday nights, do you just kind of do recaps? Or, I mean, do you guys actually have the shows, like when the races are live, do you talk about the races too?
Yeah.
Or?
I usually round up the guests, and the reason we do it on Thursdays, we normally did it on Tuesdays, but the district got slow this winter and couldn't stay open on Monday and Tuesday, so we had to move to Thursday. But our normal night is Tuesday during the summer. I forgot to mention that, but Tuesday night's a really good night to have it because the racers, they go out and they'll spend all weekend racing, and then Monday night they'll get to evaluate, order parts or whatever they tore
What
up.
next week's going to cost?
Yeah. And so they're usually waiting on parts and stuff, on Tuesday. So we thought Tuesday night would be a really good night to have it, and it's been working out good. But yeah, I go out and we invite usually 2 drivers, crew members, just try to get whoever, and have them on. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun deal like this. We just
Shoot the bull?
sit and talk and tell stories, and yeah.
So do you guys air the races live then too?
No,
Okay.
we don't. We did actually go. We went to the racetrack a couple nights, like on practice night at the beginning of the year, or during the Mid-America Clash. We actually went out and did some interviews live from the track on a Thursday, but other than going to Beloit, we usually don't go to the track. It's just there's too much going on. It's hard to get people, when they're busy working on their cars, and you'd have to get there early, and usually the guys can't get there. It's Friday night is kind of tough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, we just wait and do it during the week and
That makes sense too.
do it that way. But
Okay.
Yep.
And so you mentioned that right now you're doing a lot of sheet metal work on the vehicles.
Yep.
So you have your own shop. You do that in?
I'm actually Bill Grit, the guy I do the Racetalk show with. I rent a little bay out of his place. He has a shop out in Cambria
Okay.
that I do it from. Yep.
When did you start doing the sheet metal then?
Oh, I've done it like for our own stuff, I've been doing it for a long time, but here just in the last couple of years, I started doing it for other people.
Is it like there are certain racers that you only work with, or is it, hey, whoever needs?
I only work on modified stuff.
Okay.
I've had guys. They have a stock car and a hobby stock class. They have to run steel bodies, and yeah, I ain't messing with that. I mean, I do the decking, like the interior, the front and back in the hobby stocks, and then the full interior in the stock cars. It's all made out of aluminum, but I'll mess with that a little bit, but not only for special people.
So you mentioned your wife a while ago.
Yep.
Is she involved with this with you at all, or
some? There's a one process that you do around the wheel wells mainly is you have a tool called a edger, and it actually folds the edge of the aluminum clear over, and it's a 3-step deal to where you'll run it through and it'll bend like a 45, and then another die bends it past 90, and then the third die will bend it flat. Well, you got to run it through there 3 times, and trying to hold a quarter panel and a door that's half as long as this table is kind of tough. So I've called Peg out a couple of times. Jess does a little better job than Peg, but she gets it done.
Gets the job done. Yep.
So as a racing,
You want us to edit that part, Bobby?
we won't send her the link to this one.
She just needs a little more practice.
as a racing family, your Peg's been involved, and
That's how we actually met.
Yeah?
Really?
Yeah, she's been going to the races for a long time too, and she would go to the races before she even knew me and cheer for my dad.
Oh, that's neat.
And then I got to hanging around with Earl and Denise Kennerconnect, and she was good friends with Denise. Denise and I went to school together, and she was friends with them, and they introduced us, and yeah. That's how we got to know each other.
So not trying to put you on the spot, but how many years ago was this?
36.
All right, good job.
That was pretty quick, wasn't
That's
it?
good job.
There you
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has a sport gained popularity, you think? Is it still a pretty active sport, or is it on a lower level kind of dying off?
It's social media is killing racing.
Really?
Yeah. Because people on their phones, we'll set up in the stands and, video or go live on Facebook and video the races. And then there is getting to be so many like internet, I don't even know what to call them, but there's businesses that are going out and broadcasting the races to where you can sit at home and watch.
And not be in the stands.
Yeah. And not be in the stands. Yeah. Like this race and we went to in St. Louis, it was covered on Flow. Flow racing is a big one. But I got to admit, I have three channels that I watch, and I don't know when there's a race that's more than 100 miles away, I'll stay home, watch it on TV. But if not, I would much rather be there in person. But it is hurting. I think hurting the crowd.
So I never understood the appreciation of a race till I went to that the nationwide race up there at Kansas Speedway, and to sit there and just hear the roar of those machines.
Yeah,
that's an experience.
Oh yeah, and then we went to Peggy's uncle owned an elevator in Minneapolis, and he was a big I don't know what to say. Anyway, he had a lot to do with DuPont at the time with fertilizer and stuff, I guess. I don't know what. Anyway, he got his tickets to Charlotte.
Oh.
And so my dad and I took them, and they came with a VIP deal to where we went in the DuPont tent and had breakfast. And funny story, we were sitting there, and there was probably 300 or 400 chairs all lined up, tables and everything. we go walking in there and got our plate of food and sat down, and it was just kind of out in a little grassy area. My dad went and sat down, and a foot of his chair was in a hole, and he fell out on the ground. And them people, they were like on him like flies, oh, are you okay? You okay? And he was kind of laughing about the whole deal, and he kind of faked it like, oh, my back is hurt. He says, I'll just take that car right over there that he was pointing to Jeff Gordon's race car they had on display. I'll just take that car over there, But anyway,
wow.
They took us for a tour. We went down on pit row, and we weren't really Jeff Gordon fans, but we were there because of that.
Right.
And so anyway, they're telling us all about their pit stall and all about his toolbox and all the tools in it and yada, yada, yada. And they said, well, that'll be about it. We'll head on back now. And we're like, God, we want to go in the garage.
Yeah.
And so we kind of like fell out of line. We got lost. And so we go over to this gate, and there's a security guard there, and we tried getting through this gate, and he goes, sorry, guys, I can't let you through there. You got to have special passes.
You didn't have the right
stuff.
badge on, right?
Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, we kind of knew that anyway, but we thought we'd try. So the guy goes, hey, if you go clear down to the end of the wall, I don't think there's anybody watching down there. So we went down to the wall, went around the backside, and went through the gate, and we thought, we're in, We might as well do the whole tour. So we went in the garage, and we were walking. The cars were parked nose to nose in the garage area. We were walking right down the middle of the garage, watching all the guys work on the cars and stuff, and went down, seen all that. So then all the drivers were out on the backs of their trucks signing autographs. Huh. And so we go back there, and we're waiting in line, and of course, my dad, he has no patience at all. And we're standing in line, waiting, and pretty soon we hear this person behind us going, excuse me, I need to get through, excuse me. And my dad's like elbowing him, like, you ain't getting in front of me, you got to wait in the back of the line like everybody else. And turned around, and it was Buddy Baker that he was elbowing. He needed to talk to Mark Martin, who we were waiting in line to get his autograph. So by the time we got up there, they were both sitting there.
Nice.
But that was a lot of fun.
Do the crowds at the local races, do they draw quite a bit of crowds in?
They do. Tommy's doing a really good job out here at Salina.
What kind of size do you think?
Obviously, he's wanting more every week, but I don't know a number, but I would guess 500 to 600, 700 maybe. He's pretty consistent on the numbers. I might just be guessing at that, but of course, then the bigger events, you get quite a few more people.
So that's Friday nights out there?
Yep.
So
Friday night.
Are fans, I guess, fans of NASCAR, are they usually fans of the local area too, or are local fans usually big NASCAR fans? Are they completely separate worlds, or?
That's a lot of times I think fans will go to both.
Okay.
I know we've kind of lost out on our Kansas Speedway stuff because they went to the night race, and they were always on Saturday night. So we were obviously racing, a dirt track somewhere on Saturday night, so we weren't able to go. So we kind of gave up our tickets to the Kansas Speedway, but I don't know. They having it on a Saturday night, you obviously lose some fans from the local side of it. But it's so hard to get to do the promoting. I mean, you got to just keep trying to come up with new stuff and new ways to get the people there.
What's a big night out there, a special event or special race?
Tommy doesn't really have any special events. We used to have a traveling sprint car series that would come through, and it got to be where it was, so expensive to have them there. They want the money up front, and of course, then you got to buy an insurance policy because it might rain.
Yeah,
and so you got to do deals like that. But he tries to do as much as they can to keep Wichita. Their operating expenses. I mean, he's got way more money to work with there because of the guy that owns it. He does really good. But they've scheduled in 2 World of Outlaw events, late models and sprint cars, and those will pay probably $10,000 to $20,000 to win, and
Wow.
they want all their money up front before the season ever starts to even get on the schedule. You got to pay them.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's a commitment.
yeah.
When they do the country concerts out there, does that have anything to do with the races then too? Is that kind of tandem together, or is
They kind of lease the track, lease the area to whoever's promoting the deal, and then I think they help set up the stuff. They'll open up the concession stands, and I don't know what kind of deal they got as far as the beer sales and stuff. But they tore down the deal at the fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. They tore down the stage there
because we got tons of tennis players from Salina.
Yeah, yeah. And so they moved the.
We'll keep that in there.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, tennis players. They moved the demo derby out to the Salina Speedway.
Yeah.
You could not find a seat.
Really?
They packed the place.
Cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, they packed it. It was full.
So did they lose out on any kind of? I mean, I don't know if they have actual races in the Buy Center, but that's more like the monster truck shows. But
yeah.
Did they have any kind of competition there between getting people in?
When they have them on the same night, it was, to use an example, I guess, you have different fans that will go watch different stuff. And at Salina Speedway years ago, they had a class called a cruiser class where they'd have 2 guys in the car. The driver has the steering wheel, obviously. Driver has the steering wheel and the brake, and the passenger has the gas pedal.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And they used to run them, and there was 2 guys. They used to run them on Wednesday or Thursday nights, and they would get like 80 of these cars out there, and they would run for a trophy. I mean, Chuck Fairchild, the guy that owns the track, he made a killing off of these guys because they'd bring like 10 guys. I mean, and they're
going to eat while they're there and drink while they're there.
There's a lot of beer involved with these guys, but they got real serious about it. And then,
so wait, you said there's drinking in racing?
Back then it was.
Okay.
I mean, in this particular deal, there was some, I'm sure, but because they just went to have a good time.
Sure.
And they would flip a coin, and you would never know which way you were going to go around the track either. Sometimes they would run them backwards, or sometimes they'd run them forward.
That'd be cool to watch.
And it was awesome. And then they started letting them put bigger tires on. Then they got bigger motors, and then this, and then that. And then they turned into race cars.
Yeah.
And then now they have like 5. Yeah. They
got too expensive to run.
They killed it. And Tommy's trying to get it back to the old days where it's all stock. And he would run them like once a month, I think, here last summer. And there was one night they had like 12 of them. And yeah, the fans went crazy.
Oh, I think they'd love that.
But
if I'm the guy on the gas, I'm just
Josh found a new hobby for me and you. We can. You got 2 new racers right here.
That's right. You guys will look good in one.
Take that little Fiat or whatever that is you're driving out there.
Yeah.
So, Bobby, I've got a question for you. I don't know a lot about racing, but it was about a month ago, 2 months ago, that the guy they call I don't even know what they call him, the watermelon guy. And I was caught up in the article. What's his name?
Ross Chastain.
Ross, yeah.
The Martinsville thing.
I watched that. I watched several different YouTube angles of that, and it was incredible. And of course, what caught the whole idea that he and his, I guess, brother used to play GameCube.
Yeah.
And he used, I guess, physics to drop that thing
Did it on.
into to fifth gear or something,
Right.
and then just mash down the gas
Yep.
and hug the wall like a
Yep.
slingshot.
Yep.
Yeah, I just watched it. I was just like, and then when he got done, he was really humble about it, and he's like, I don't plan to do that again. 'Cause
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people, if they try that, that's like a total risk of.
Oh yeah.
And that was
He was going
NASCAR, right?
Yeah.
Where was that at?
Martinsville.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was he had to pass Denny Hamlin in order to go into the championship
That's what he
round
said.
of four.
I was more interested in the psychology
Yeah.
of somebody reflecting on. He said at the time, I didn't really think I was going to do something like that, and then it came into my mind like, well, I guess I could try that. And they said that he needed a couple more points.
Yep.
He ended up passing
He
five.
He passed five cars,
five cars.
So it
in
was
3 and 4.
It was a video game move. He practiced as a kid playing video games,
Yep.
and it worked out in real life pretty
It
much.
did
well,
work.
I think he said if you go watch the interview,
I-
because he said that his brother would do that to him, and that's how his brother would win.
Well,
And
when
then-
Bobby and I were
Yeah.
growing up, we had probably race car sets.
Yeah.
And you always wanted to have the guardrail because you can just floor it. And you're not going to fly off the track, right?
Yeah.
Remember those days?
Yeah.
So in
It
racing
was the
terms,
darndest thing.
what happened with that? I guess
It worked.
what did
I
he
mean-
do? What did he do exactly? I guess.
He well, at that particular track, I mean, you're like down on the curb on the bottom the whole time. I mean, you could maybe run too wide, on the bottom,
Okay.
but the outside groove is it's too far around, and of course then they throw all the loose rubber and stuff up there, and there's just no traction at all. And yeah, he went into turn 3 and thought, I got to pass that guy clear over there. Here we go. And he shifted it into fifth gear and put her to the floor and just held. He said he actually let go of the steering wheel.
Right. Yeah. He
Because-
let go because it was just
Because he was afraid that if the wheel grabbed the wall and yanked it out of his hand, it'd probably break his hand or something. But it was smooth enough to where, it made it all the way around.
What a move, man. That's awesome.
I freaked out. What just happened there? And I had to back it up and watch it again. And of course, then they showed it like 50
forgot he
times.
let go of the steering wheel. That was the other
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he had. I need to go back and watch the interview because it was just interesting to watch his mind process what happened. He said because he said he didn't hear anything. He just mashed it.
He was just focused.
and then he was like,
so hard.
What was
"Well,
the, what
maybe
was the
it'll
guy's
work,
name?
maybe it won't."
Ross Chastain.
I wonder if there's an audio of his pit crew. Like,
Oh, yeah.
what the heck was his pit crew thinking there?
Yeah, I don't know.
So he
Or
must
the
have a
car-
good
they-
body guy, right?
Yeah, they talked to the car owner the next day. I was listening on the NASCAR channel, and they was talking to the car owner and asking him how much damage is the car, and he said, "I don't care.
We advanced. We got the points.
Yeah, we made her in. Yeah,
Wow.
That is
that
crazy.
that's something."
That was a great headline too,
Yeah.
and it was fun to watch somebody that has a passion for it, and then just all of that. Because I was going back thinking, if that was early 2000s when he's playing this as a kid on a GameCube, the idea that would actually even work in real reality.
I mean,
the physics on the track is
it ain't something
fascinating.
you could practice for sure. I mean,
Well, if you
your
hug
car
that
owner would
wall
shoot you if
that
you-
fast at
Yeah.
the wrong, you got to
Oh, yeah.
slide. I mean, assuming you got to slide right in there, and then you probably at an angle too.
yeah, and he couldn't. Yeah, like he said, he had to when he come down the front in the back straightaway, he had to catch the wall. Entering the corner, he couldn't like drive into it. And hit it, but because it was crazy. It was cool.
That's
That next week, I seen stuff on Facebook. They were guys were building cars with big caster wheels on the sides. They were going to try it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Those angles on the racetracks, I know in NASCAR, they're pretty steep angles there. Local areas too. I mean, are they kind of angled? Also?
They all vary, and that's what's cool about dirt track is none of them are the same, and you hear so many people that come to Salina going, man, this racetrack's hard to get around. It's hard to figure out how to get the car turned and get traction off of it. And at some of the bigger events that Tommy has out here, they I think some of the local guys have an advantage over the guys that, you know, come
Why
in.
is that out here?
It's just the straightaways being probably a little longer than some, and then it's got little tighter corners, and then of course the dirt, and they've done a really good job. It got to where, I don't know how to say it. The racetrack wasn't very good later in the night a lot of times, which, I mean, it gets slick and track gets hard and dusty in the middle of the summer, and everybody was just heading for the tires and, you know, follow the leader around the bottom and, you know, try to drive off the corners. But they've done a lot of work on it and have gotten to where the top groove is a lot better than before, and the racing this summer was really good.
Are all these tracks that these guys drive, are they all dirt or?
Yeah. I don't think we have I don't even know where the closest asphalt track would be. Probably in Oklahoma, I think there's one. But, yeah, I don't know where they're.
So when's the season end around here? What's that time frame?
It seems like they always get earlier. As far as I always look forward to this time of year because, you know, it gets cold outside, but there's a lot of indoor stuff like we went to the St. Louis race. And then here in a couple weeks, we're going to go to Tulsa, and they have the micro sprints. This thing is huge. There'll probably be 1,500 cars there.
Wow.
All inside. And then a couple weeks after that will be the Chili Bowl, which is the midgets. They'll be running inside, and there's usually around 300 of those, and that lasts from Tuesday through Saturday, so that'll be an all-week deal.
I got to ask. You said the midgets.
Yeah.
Is it actual
It's a
midgets?
No.
Okay.
No. That's okay. I've heard that a lot of times. No, they are.
That'd be the go-karts right there, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
no. I showed you the picture of the micro sprint at Kilsch.
Yeah.
They're a little bit bigger than that.
Okay.
They have a full-blown all-aluminum 4-cylinder engine in them that's putting out way more power than a 4-cylinder should.
So it's a shorter, compact vehicle.
They're small.
Okay.
They're smaller than like a sprint car. You know, with the wings on them, they're smaller than that.
They probably cruise like crazy though.
They're fast.
Yeah.
They're fast because they're real lightweight and like they have way overpowered.
So with the dirt, then you mentioned a while back getting insurance for a rain out. If it does rain, or is there a certain consistency that they have to watch for on the track before they call out a night?
It is, and usually it's not the track that's bad. Usually it's the pit area and the parking. I mean, that'll kill a race. Usually they can get the track, you know, they usually have it hard enough to where the water runs off and it, you know, usually packs in fairly quick. But like I say, usually the stand or parking and the pit area. That's
How much is a ticket to go out here to Salina, and where do you get a ticket?
They have the ticket booth right there.
Ballpark.
I'm thinking it's $10 or $12. I think it's $10. And then for seniors and military people, I think they get in for $5. Yeah. No, it's not that bad.
So are you qualified as a senior?
Yeah.
Well,
actually, I'm fortunate enough that Tommy, we kind of work out a deal as far as sponsoring our Racetalk show.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
We got a deal going there where they let us in. So.
Well, you're great PR for that out there.
Well, I try to be. I mean, when you've been in racing, you know, all your life, and you hate to walk around and say negative things about the place because, you don't want it to close up, obviously.
Exactly.
I mean, the guys I know are having a hard enough time keeping the places open, so we need them all to stay open.
How many local racers are in the area then? I mean, how many guys?
That has changed a ton. There used to be a lot of racers in Salina. I mean, you could, in fact, when I didn't have anything to do on our car, that's all I'd do is drive around everybody's shop, see, you know, and stop in and see if they was working on stuff. And nowadays there ain't a whole lot of places to go. There's not that many racers in Salina left. Most of them travel from out of town.
Is that just a rise in other sports getting popular, or?
I think a lot of it come from, sports, kids,
Yeah.
being involved in sporting stuff. And of course, Corey Lagoon for all those years, his kid's in kind of a perfect sport for Corey.
Well, when your dad can help you fix everything.
Yeah.
So,
when they go racing. Now to talk a little bit, I started traveling with Corey and Kale this summer, and it was weird to go to these tracks because, usually like going out to Salina, the guys will go out there and race, and usually a couple times a night, you'll get two guys that get together and they'll get pissed at each other. And they're fighting in the pits, and that's what the fans kind of like to see all that stuff. That gets them to come back next week. But C. Ray Hollows used to tell me, if you're going to fight, you go out on the front straightaway and fight in front of the fans to get them all back. But to travel with Corey and Kale with this little micro deal, I loaded up the cooler with beer, and when we went on our first little trip, and afterwards, everybody kind of stood around and talked for, a little bit. And then pretty soon the lights were all out and everybody was in bed. Well, I got to thinking probably 80% of the drivers are all, 15, 16,
underage.
15, 16-year-old kids. And then the fighting part, nothing ever happens because you might get in a wreck with a guy and you go running over to his trailer and find out it's a 12-year-old kid. Well, what are you going to do? Beat the dad up or what?
Are there many?
How do you? Yeah.
Do you see many female drivers?
In this micro thing, there is a lot of girls that are racing in that
cool.
particular class. There's a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, but no, there's quite a few little young girls.
Awesome.
Racing in that deal, and it's this year they have when you were talking about series, they have a Now 600 series that they call it for this micro deal, and they've scheduled a race in La Crosse this year, which is new, and then a 2-day deal in Dodge City, which is new, and of course then the little series, the J Husker series, runs Concordia and Clay Center in Washington, Fairbury, Nebraska. I think Hastings might be in there, but it's all in a real close area.
and all these little places have their own little dirt tracks. Then?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're all really, really, they're all real small. And
So these little 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, where are they driving?
they're micro sprints. They're little, like I was talking about the midgets. They're about that size, maybe a little bigger or smaller, and they all have 600 cc engines in them.
Could you send me that picture, and then would it be okay if we posted it up on the video? What that picture is, and that way people can kind of see what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. They have 600. Then they have a restrictor plate class for the younger ones that run a restrictor plate. And then when they get certain age, or if you think you're ready, you take that restrictor plate out and then you move
on up.
Yep.
So that with the restrictor plate, all the limitations, what kind of speed is like a 12, 13-year-old kid running?
Well, there's a track in Caney that is probably bigger than what they should be running them cars on.
Yeah.
But they were probably going 70 or 80, I would imagine.
Well, I'm thinking a 600 cc, you can smoke on those
They
things.
were flying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are brave kids. Holy
No, they're
cow.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'd probably go faster if they'd let them.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. No,
That's pretty cool.
and they're a motorcycle engine
yeah.
is so particular on the RPMs that the gearing on them is really, really particular. I mean, they're changing the sprockets on them all the time, going from track to track, and then from like heat race to the feature, they're adjusting on them, but they're all pretty much stock right off of a motorcycle, and so most of them have the computer and stuff still on them, so they regulate the fuel injection part of it on the fuel. But then there's others that are manually done that you can fine tune them more rather than relying on the computer to adjust. And
So in the racing world, there's probably no cheating or anything, would you say?
Never.
I
mean,
yeah.
we were talking about that the other night, about how tires have gotten to be such a big deal. Of course, in IMCA, well, most of these sanctioning bodies have one particular tire that you have to run. You can own, and in IMCA, the tires last year, you could only buy 2 at a time per night.
How long does a set of tires last?
If the track stays fairly wet, you can run them 3 or 4 nights probably. But then there again, the guys with all the money,
Who cares?
They'll run them one night and then sell them and then go buy 2 more new ones. But no, they got to where first you couldn't touch the tires. You had to just run them, the way they were. Then they opened it up to where you could grind on them, where you take a sanding disc and grind on the surface and, get back to the good rubber. Well, the IMCA tire is more plastic, but anyway. Then they allowed grooving then they allowed siping, which is just cutting slits in the tires, which makes them better.
Yeah.
And then when they got a tire shortage, they wanted them to last longer, so they let you start grooving them. Well, now they've opened all that up. It's a whole another night of maintenance. You got to take your tires all down out of the trailer. You got to wash them. Then you go through, measure them all, make sure they all hold air, don't have any cuts. Then you sipe them and groove them, and you do all that. So, yeah, it made a whole nother night of work when they opened all that up.
So you go back to the beginning of the conversation when your dad just broke out the windows of the car.
Yeah.
Here you are today.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you'd go around and, this one's got the most tread on it. We're going to put it on the right rear, and
Yeah.
then this one goes
Make it
on.
work.
You didn't measure them or nothing, and now you're down to, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. You're measuring them, trying to figure out which side, where you're going to,
Well,
which
like
one
you
you're
said,
going to run. And
having the scales like you were using. And
that makes all the difference, yeah.
so is there a website that people can go to? Like, hey, I want to go to the races here in Salina, knowing when they are. Is there a site they can go to look at all those?
Salina Speedway's got their own.
They do? Okay.
Yeah, about all the tracks. Salina Speedway has theirs. The track in Hayes is actually Rolling Plains Motor Speedway, so it's RPM Speedway. It's got their own website. And then, they all, Dodge City Raceway, 81 Speedway, they all have their own websites. The J Husker series that I was talking about with the mini sprints, it's all through, up North Concordia and Clay Center, and
So the races up in Belleville, what are they, sprint cars?
They just run specials. Yeah. They had the 305 Sprint Car Nationals that they held, which they had a good turnout of that. And then it was kind of a mixed deal because they built a 1/4 mile track inside that they run the little cars on. And they called in the Lucas Oil late model series, which this thing paid $30,000 to win, 30 or 40,000 to win, maybe 50. Paid 25 one night and 50 the next. But anyway, they got on the big track, and it was just they were just holding it to the floor and running around there following the leader, and all the guys were complaining about their cars getting hot because the noses and everything, the way the air was going over the top of the cars and wasn't getting through the radiator, and they all complained about their cars getting hot and tires blowing out and stuff. So they come back the next night and go, okay, we're going to not run you guys on the big track. We're going to run you on the 1/4 mile. And it was way better racing.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I personally liked it way better on the little track.
Quarter mile. How big's the big track up there?
It's a big half mile.
So what do we
It's
have out
rough.
here at Salina?
3/8.
3/8.
Yeah, that's 3/8 is a pretty common deal for the bigger cars, and then of course the micros, they all run like on 5th mile.
And how many laps they do on those usually for a race?
Well, like the big late model guys, they normally run 50 to 100.
Okay.
The ones that pay all the big bucks. Yeah, and then normally the others are 20 to 25.
Okay. So I mean,
Yep.
they're pretty quick races if you want to go to watch one or
Yeah.
something. They're not
Yeah.
3 hours long like NASCAR.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. You're usually not there that late.
Cool. So again, your radio show, where can they go to find that out again? If people want to come and tune in and
Racetalk Live
on Facebook.
on Facebook.
Right now, Thursday nights, summertime, Tuesday nights.
We're on once a month, Thursday nights. Yep. And then it'll probably be March or April. Usually the end of March and first part of April is when racing starts, and we'll probably go back to doing two times a month then.
Oh, okay.
Every other week.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming on. I think
Hey, this was fun.
we learned a lot about
Cool.
racing. I didn't know about it. And I thought it was really cool. And
Yeah.
I learned a lot. So.
yeah.
It's amazing that that's like right in our backyard, and all of these towns around, Kansas have these.
I don't think a lot of people
Yeah.
know about it though. I
Yeah.
think it's a very kind
You know-
of hidden gem almost.
When I was telling you about the cruiser cars that
Yeah.
you guys are going to get with the two
Yeah.
drivers.
Josh and I
Yeah.
are starting that next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When that was real.
We'll put
I got
that
one,
on the
and
side.
I'm blind in one eye, so it's going to be even more.
He's the gas guy.
Which eye is it?
It's my right eye.
Okay, you'll be on the left hand side then. We're good. So
I
But
can
when
do the gas.
when I go out there, you'd go out there and you'd sit in the stands. And of course, the stands were packed back then for the cruiser night. And I always went out there because I liked watching them. I'd go watch tricycles race. It wouldn't matter to me, but I'd go out there and you could talk to some of the people about the races on Friday nights. None of them ever went. They'd just be out there for the cruisers. Yeah. So it was just like two totally different crowds that they would get. It was crazy, but no, that was fun back then watching them.
We'll have to try it.
Yep.
I'd pay to watch you two race.
we might need some. You might need to pay us to race too. We might lose on the job, so.
All right.
But,
Man,
yeah,
Bobby, thanks for
on.
coming over. This
Hey,
is
thanks,
good,
guys.
man. Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
We've enjoyed your
We've
whole
enjoyed
family.
it.
Yep.
So,
Well,
Yep.
all right.
Cool.
We're
yeah,
good.
Thanks, Bobby.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Content here is for illustrative and educational purposes only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice. Nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Market conditions change continuously. Past performance is no guarantee of future results or success. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Securities offered by registered representatives through Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory products and services offered by investment advisory representatives through RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. RFG Advisory, Billings Group, and Private Client Services are unaffiliated entities.